Emery.
He's
got
good luck, buddy.
Yeah, he's so you're saying good luck. I've been thinking about him all week. I know a bunch of us have. And there's a bunch of other tournament anglers that are down in gosh, I should know exactly where this is at. And to be honest, I don't know off the top of my head, but the
Shreveport, Louisiana.
In Louisiana, okay.
Yeah. He's at the Mr. Crappie Classic.
Expo. Yeah. So it is a whole tournament, and I believe an expo to go along with that. But man, what a really exciting opportunity to get to go to that invitational and fish for those fish. I've seen he's been updating on his Facebook, and that's been kind of a lot of fun to watch. All kinds of thanks Goose. Yeah, in Louisiana, there we go. All kinds of stuff swimming through the river that he was fishing. So I don't know exactly what that was. I should go and check that out. Maybe it was an alligator. But he's catching some nice crappies, and so I'm looking forward to the tournament. I think comes up on the 30th and goes through the 3rd of October. So a lot more to come on that. If you have not started catching up with that, then the rest is still to happen. So just go and check out. I know the Mr. Crappie Expo has their info on their page, but certainly Chris Emery has his stuff going on.
Us too, Phil.
Yeah, and also on his Chris Emery fishing page, so you could look up both there.
Paul, thanks for checking in on YouTube's.
And that is a really great point that we don't often talk about. We have a bunch of people who do join us live on Facebook, but the option is yours that you can check this out also on YouTube. So that's always really a great time.
Well, Emily, do we start talking about ourselves, or do we start talking about crappie fishing?
Jordan, how's the crappie fishing been? Hang on a quick minute. If you have 5 minutes, honestly, there's a few more things that we're going to get to before that, but I promise you that we will talk crappie fishing. So, man, a few of the other things that are coming up besides, I can't make it to the Crappie Expo this year. You can't either. Wow. I know that. So if you're like us, other things that are going on besides that, if you're watching that online, also make sure to go and check out the Striker Brands website, because actually this is a really great time of the year to do some shopping, because rain gear, all rainwear is 20% off, as is all Cool Wave. So we're talking like all the summer line. We're talking like, well, I don't want to say all, go and check the website because it has that information there, but all the Cool Wave. Yeah, Josh is pulling up his phone. Get that out of here. We have winter stuff. No, go and check it out.
I was trying to.
But 20% off. I know that the codes are listed on the Striker website, but I wrote them down here, so I didn't want to mess them up. It's all the same code. For the rainwear and the Cool Wave, the code is fall 20. Fall 20. So that's yeah, we can put that in the comments, and then you guys will have that there to reference if you're looking at that. And then there's also free shipping on orders if you spend a certain amount. I can't remember exactly what that is, but man, I am really looking at a new Denali suit, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know if I've told anybody that, but I love my Evolve suit. That rain gear cannot be beat, but I think I'm looking at something with a little bit of insulation coming up. And that is a great transition into the fall. So I cannot wait for that.
Yeah.
So other things, I guess, we normally start out an interview by asking
Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, tell us about yourself. So, do I ask that of you?
Sure. So I'm Josh. Josh Jensen. I grew up in south central Minnesota, just north of the Twin Cities. I've been fishing and getting fishing stuff since I can remember. It's just pretty much been my whole life. I went to school for natural resources and ended up doing some water quality stuff. Kind of stuck with the fish theme, but just went a little bit more towards the chemistry side and left the fishing for fun. But I got blessed enough to get a job here in Wisconsin, working for a local tribe. And I do get to still do a lot of fun fishery stuff like shocking fish and doing some surveys like that. I also get to do, a lot of plant stuff. I work with a little bit in wildlife. So it's a really cool job I got. And then Crappie Junction, I guess, that's kind of been with me since college. We kind of came up with it in class, my friend Charlie Carlson and I, and we kind of ran it as just a cool little fishing group before Facebook, and then it kind of laid low. I built some rods under that label for a while, and then that got a little hectic, so I stopped doing that, and then we kind of picked it right back up after we got married and turned it into media. So there you go.
There you go. That is true.
How about you?
How about me? So Emily Lucas, now Emily Lucas Jensen, I guess. And I was born and raised in Illinois and came out to Wisconsin for college. And ultimately, we kind of met online, actually, which is a crazy story. But we met halfway between our jobs. And so that's kind of why we were at the location that we were at in central Wisconsin, where I always call it central Wisconsin. We're not really on northeast Wisconsin. But there's a lot of things that we've come to love about this area. The river system, Wolf River, gotta love that. Lots of great little lakes, which are some gems. But ultimately, what keeps us together? That's not true. There's a lot of things that keep us together, but one of them is crappie fishing, and a lot of other fishing within there. So the crappie in the Crappie Junction, but ultimately we do love to talk multi-species of all kinds. So I did grow up fishing as well. I was one of those people, my family were campers actually. And so my dad would always take me fishing at all the little docks and piers and red and white bobbers. And that was awesome. But honestly, I don't know how many big fish I ever caught until later in my life. So that kind of gave me the love for fishing. And, there's a lot of little fish out there, but it's great to see how many big fish can be out there too. And I think that's one of the things that's become one of our big focuses is, anybody can go out and panfish and love fishing, but the pursuit of big panfish is kind of a sport in itself. So that's kind of funny. It brings us all the way kind of back to Jordan's question. How has crappie fishing been? And I guess the first thing I'm going to say before that is if anybody has specific questions on, for us or for crappie fishing or, anything in general, put that in the comment section. We will talk about that.
Yep.
But a weekly fishing report is kind of something we tend to bring you. So I guess how was our last weekend?
It was pretty good, I suppose. We mixed it up a little bit. We have an annual trip, right? The beginning of October. Usually go up north, up by Anago area, visit our friend Nick Anderson. Kind of, I don't know how it started. He just invited us up one year, and for the last 4 years, we've gone up there at the beginning of October. This year, we had to break the weekend because we're busy this weekend, so we went a weekend early, and fish were still there. We did really not as well as we have in the past, but not as bad either. So it was really fun weekend. We got to tour around the lake a little bit and had quite a few, as far as the size goes, big pike. At least
more than normal.
Yeah, three that were around or over 30 inches. But then we came back home. We hit the river.
Well, hold on. So that's a whole lot of stuff, but we have more to talk about with that because this is an interesting point of what happened to us. When we were out on this lake looking for fish, because we only have one day out there when we go and we visit somebody. So our local lakes, we can go and day by day and follow in the patterns of the fish, but this is not that situation. So what did we do is, we kind of had an idea of where we wanted to start, but going around the different parts of the lake, you sometimes have to guess, or maybe where you caught fish in the past. So if that is shallower brush piles or deeper brush piles or weed lines, and actually we found in this lake, because there is a lot of brush in different spots, we had some great success before in, I don't want to call them shallow or deep, some medium, 8-foot brush zones. And the water levels were down a little bit, but not so bad in this lake. So they were pretty typical typical compared to what we expected. But the other place that we found ourselves looking was deeper basins for kind of schools of fish that might have been roaming. And the funny thing is that we didn't hit a home run in either of those locations. But that did actually give us some interesting information, because what we are seeing at this point is the transition from those summer patterns to those fall patterns. So what that means is, we have to take into consideration where those fish are going to be in the fall, but we have to take into consideration where they've come from, because in a lot of cases, those fish are like literally right in the middle of those zones. There is some travel that's involved in that. And sometimes they stop and they hang out in funny little places while, water temperatures adjust or change or whatever happens. So we found it was kind of one of those funny weekends that fish weren't totally in summer patterns or totally fall patterns. And that left kind of some roaming fish. And that's, I guess, what you were saying in the first place when, did we have like a fabulous weekend? Like, heck yeah, we caught a lot of really nice fish. Like, I would answer that question different than Josh did. But I think like we didn't run into those schools like you see in a fall pattern. And so that's something that definitely affected the weekend. Not for bad. It just made us work a little bit harder, have to be a little bit more patient as those fish kind of cycled through, or we did, cycle through the lake. So
yeah.
All right, I can let you move back on. So that was only one day. That was only one day. But that is the great thing, is that it was a whole lot of fun and a whole lot of searching while we were out there. So we did come back to our local waters, and the nice thing is that we were then able to hit up the river on Sunday. So I'm gonna let you continue with your report. You're doing a fabulous job.
You keep going. You tell us about the river.
Well, the funny thing is, we showed up, and I'm watching Josh's face. If you guys at home are watching, that's what I'm laughing at. We showed up on Sunday at our riverboat launch, and wouldn't you know that there was a whole bass tournament launched out of this launch. So it was like really busy. It was unexpectedly busy for me. I know as soon as the water temperatures start calming down that fish start really biting. But that was really more than I expected to see. So the other thing is, I know that in this area of the country, there is some like epic TikTok videos about like bathroom destruction going on. And so I know all of our bathrooms in our park systems are closed. So that was kind of a crazy situation to have, so many people, and like everything's closed compared to normal. So, that's really kind of crazy. So I see a few comments coming in, and I'm reading them really quick, to be honest.
Well, okay, so I'll finish up the river story. So we went on the river, went and fished some backwaters, fished around the bass boats. They asked us what we were doing, and we asked them what they were doing, and got a few tips from here and there. Didn't really sound like the panfish were hitting that much, and that's kind of what we found out. We did grind out a couple, but the bigger fish are still hanging. A lot of them are still hanging out in Main River. Water temps around 59 in both the lake up by Anago and the river down here. So they're getting there. Just slow and steady temp changes, though.
Yeah. And the river was another really classic example of those fish are kind of halfway between those summer and those fall patterns, because, we would expect them in summer to be on those deeper brush zones, maybe mid-river, just in the lesser current spots of the brush. But, some of them are going to start moving towards those backwaters and all of that. And to be honest, we only caught a few fish here and there in both locations. So that's another great example of those fish are in that transition process. And I'm hearing, that's what I was stopping to read, is Goose here has a really great comment and talking about, it can be really hard to fish when those fish are scattered about. He's finding that sometimes they hug the bottom really tight and you don't see them suspended. Really, really interesting point there, because I've noticed two things with that. If you are fishing a lake that's shallow enough, then absolutely they might be at the bottom. But we, in some cases, have been fishing deep enough that we found still some pretty sharp thermoclines, actually. And what that was showing us, is that those fish weren't necessarily all the way at the bottom, but they were at the top of the thermocline. So if the thermocline is here, the bottom is down here, the top of water is here. Because our thermocline, I don't know, it's in halfway down in some cases or more, depends on the body of water.
15 feet-ish.
But those fish will be right over that thermocline as if it was the bottom. So, Goose, really great point, to watch your depth, but also to be watching for that thermocline. If you have not seen that before, sometimes you can get it to mark on your graph. Also shows up actually in the aqua view, I noticed one year. So I was dropping the camera down pretty slow, looking for some of these suspended fish. And I actually was able to see that water, because what happens is that it separates. Is it by temperature?
Yeah. So the temperature. Well, so in that case, that day it was pretty windy, right? And so the top layer was stirring, and the bottom layer, when the water gets cold enough, it's more dense than the top, and because the top layer was stirring so much, it was creating a really crazy like wavy effect at the thermocline, so it made it very defined. And also, like, you'll get gases and stuff get trapped at different temperatures. One other thing to be cognizant of is as much as thermocline is important, is the light line. Fish like to be comfortable, but they also like to be hidden, and so when they're suspended like that, just take into account that there's not as much boat traffic. You don't have the pleasure boating going on, and a lot of the lakes you've been fishing all summer have cleared up, and it's right before the turnover. And so, they might be sitting on top or a little bit above during, peak fishing hours, but then, noon comes around, fish stop biting. Well, they didn't really stop biting. They just sank lower, and you're fishing too high. And so you just play around with that and just be cognizant of that too.
And that's an interesting point, because that's something that might change due to, first of all, if there's a lot of boaters in the summer and then not later in the year, that's something, mixing of that water can certainly affect that. And so if all of a sudden it gets cold and you have boaters that are no longer going through, that could affect your water clarity. But also there's a lot of people that are unfortunately dealing with, zebra mussels and all these different things that are clearing up waters more than they used to be. And so some of your favorite bodies of water that you used to know where to find fish, maybe you don't have to look as far as you thought, but try deeper.
So we got a couple questions coming in here. Eric, you're asking about water levels. You know what, bud? So here it is. We have been super blessed this year. Well, you can call it that as far as the rest of the Midwest go. We've had our second wettest year on record, according to our part of Wisconsin even. So if we drive, 2 hours, if we drive 2 hours west, it starts to brown up, and, we haven't really had to deal with that. I guess, low water levels, they can make fish very lethargic, and especially it really depends on a lot of factors, plant, vegetation, whether it's green or decaying takes, because that has to do with oxygen. The warmer water just inherently carries less oxygen. There's a lot of factors that go into that, because there's a lot of great fisheries that are shallow. Look at Lake Poygan. That doesn't get more than 10 feet deep, but there's lots of great fish in there,
But that's an interesting thing, because Lake Poygan is on a river system, yes, and so it is fed by oxygen, especially in that case. So, I guess as far as super low water levels, first of all, it stinks for boating. It stinks for being, a recreational person out on the water. But I think it stinks for the fish too, because they're pushed in all these different places that maybe they're not used to hanging up or hanging out. I think that pushes bait in different places. I think it kind of mixes up up the system. The weeds start growing in crazy places, a lot deeper than they were before. And so one thing to really consider is that when water levels come back up, it's not just going to be like, ooh, back to how it was, because in some places like grass has started to grow out where there used to be water. And, when that water level comes back up, that takes kind of a cycle for things to even back out and back into lake.
Right.
So it might be, the beginning of being patient, unfortunately. But the good thing about being an angler is that we're all super adaptive, like it or not. Oh gosh. I'm a little bit, I'm up here by questions. Oh no, that's still, and good luck with those warmer waters because, going into ice season, that really does affect it too. You might find fish lethargic in ice. More bad news.
Eric, you can come visit us.
Yeah, that's true. Jay's talking about the boat traffic changes do help. Turnover of lakes will start to happen. Definitely turnover is affecting things for sure. But the other thing that I've noticed is boat traffic has not waned as much as normal because, man, those temperatures are still pretty nice out there. And all the Packers games have not been at boating time. So everyone's been out of the water. That's funny. Steve, you were pulling crappies out of 18 feet of water on Sunday. I was fishing river spots that weren't even down to 18 feet. So I believe you. I just can't agree with you because I was in different conditions. I think crappies were relating to the deeper parts of the water, of those backwaters, but I would have had to be in a different body of water to find that, I think, to be honest.
Dustin, I'm trying to think back into the conversation and yeah, so river crappies, from what we understand, we're fairly new to that game. I grew up in lake country and moved over here and started working on that. And from what we've gathered, like the crappies and bluegills and bass, a lot of those fish that don't like a lot of current, they'll move into those backwaters on the river.
Well, and they'll follow the forge.
Yeah. They'll do that, but as what water levels slow down, they're able to get out of that main channel of the river. They'll follow the spawn of the minnows. Like for us, it's a lot of emerald shiners, shad and stuff, and they go up into the warmer waters, and that's where the predators follow. And yet when you're catching small fish, that's a good sign, right? Because when you find small, especially when you find small crappies, you're going to catch a bunch of small crappies because they usually school very much together. But you also have to realize that you're in a good area. You're just one or two puzzle pieces away from, because crappies, they all like the same things, but the bigger trophy fish get the better spots because they are bigger and they're not getting chased around for food to be eaten all the time.
Jay's making a really great point. The food source moves into the less current, but also the warmer water. And that's a really great point, is in that winter, those backwaters can be quite a bit warmer, actually, by a few degrees. I mean, I guess that's not quite a bit, but those are all definitely things that will affect that.
What's this in here?
Eric is mentioning because he has shallower water. He's fishing waters that are 3, 4, 5 feet shallower than last year. Also, once you are out there, keep track of the different logs and stumps and rock piles that maybe you didn't notice up by the shallows, because maybe next spring that'll come super in handy, when that water fills back up. Everyone else can't see it, but that it's still there. That's funny.
Goose, you have a good comment. When you're looking at those small rock bars and stuff, and you're going through uneven terrain, some of that uneven terrain can be fish. Last year was a great example. We were fishing one of our lakes up by Shawano, and we just started. We dropped to the bottom, and we were pulling up some nice bluegills.
Yeah,
and it was really funny, because it was probably about this time of year, actually.
A little later, but yeah.
And there was a couple of old guys sitting on the boat, and they're like tooling around behind us, and we're sitting out there, and they weren't really watching us, but they did come past us, and they're like, "Hey, do you guys know Jim?" We're like, "Who's Jim?" They're like, "Oh, you're sitting in Jim's spot. He's always fishing there." So it's really funny how, those fish do relate to spots like that, but you can also find spots like that and replicate it around a lake, especially if the lake's big enough.
Great point though about especially on small rock bars, you won't even pick them up on the locator if they are deep like that. So that's a great thing to think about even going into winter when you have like your Vexlar and stuff and you throw that down the hole and you're like, oh, there's no fish. Always worth putting a camera down there if you're able, or, jigging even a time or two just to make sure that what you're seeing is what you think that you're seeing, because it's amazing how tricky those fish could be. And I don't even mean that as a funny comment. I mean, that's honest. Like, it's amazing how great the fish are at hiding.
Yeah.
Eric, you said that you're on your way for fishing. Yeah, let's go. Anybody checking in? Hello to you as well. And we are loving the comments coming in. If anybody has more comments or questions
or tips, these tips are great. Don't get me wrong, I'm going to use all of these. So don't give away too many of your secrets.
Yeah, that's true. So keep putting that in there. Awesome. Looking at
So since we're kind of interviewing each other, or supposed to be.
Okay.
What's your favorite thing to do outside of being in the boat or being on the ice and fishing? What do you like to do?
I don't know, like making jigs.
I don't
What do
know.
you mean? What do you mean? Like, I don't know, like mostly just fishing, How would you answer that question? What were you going to say?
Well, you stole mine. I was going to say make tackle.
Oh.
But that's because we do it together.
Well, I think that's a big part, actually. That's a good thing to bring up.
Yeah.
That's a big part of, one of the things that we love about Crappie Junction is, Josh is definitely a tackle maker, and can I call myself a tackle artist? Like,
you're a tackle creator.
I could never sit and do production jigs because I get too bored. But like, if you want some really super sweet, like powder paint swirl, like you've never seen these before, or like, I don't know, I can make rods, I can do all, but like a few, and because I do crazy things, and just you have fun with it. But Josh, loves simpler things, and so it's fun to come together. But I think we're both like kind of hobby minded, and that kind of lends itself to one of the things, a lot of people recognize us from shows and expos, and that's one of the things that we love is all the people out there that are doing and making and creating tackle themselves. So when we ask for tips and hints and all these things, it's not just like stupid things to throw out there. It's because we're genuinely interested. We love running into those people with those ideas. So with thanks, Mark. With the absence of the shows and expos, honestly, one of the things that I'm really missing is all of like the mom and pop and garage shop projects, because there is just some really neat things that people have come up with out there that are just things that I would never give up in my tackle box. Great example, Widowmaker lures. Everybody seems to hear about them on the internet these days, but they started out as such a small little company, and they still are, it's like a family that makes the tackle in their workshop. That is so cool, to have that story and hear these people and see what they're doing. Man, that's the kind of stuff that we got to love in this fishing world. So if you know stuff like that, let us know, because we're interested.
Absolutely.
Oh, people are in on the hobbies. That's funny. Mowing my yard at Tobin. That's so funny. Put in native wildflowers and you won't have to mow anymore.
Yeah, that's what we did. We took up half of our yard and just planted it in flowers, and you don't have to mow it.
Well, and Eric is saying, what other hobbies or just you guys have outside of fishing? Like we're saying, honestly, we're gardeners. Like my garden is like a little bit weedy. I can see out the window on this side. That sometimes if you see me look that way, that's what I'm looking at.
Archery.
Archery, but beekeeping, native plants, honey, making maple syrup. We do like, I guess, a lot of creative stuff. I don't know. Other than that, like we cook a lot actually. And then the only thing there's time left for is like laundry and cleaning our house. Well, and actually, because our other hobby, I guess, with Crappie Junction, we do this Tuesday show with Striker, and then we also do a Thursday show and interview kind of people across the industry. So here we like to talk to the different Striker Pro staff, and there we kind of get to talk all kinds of products. So that's awesome.
What do we cook? Oh, geez. What don't we cook? We have 2 grills outside. A grill grate on our fire pit. Emily makes all kinds of delicious stuff inside.
Usually it's like meat and a side and veggies. Or meat, veggies, side.
Once in a while,
chicken
I'll
salads.
get to...
Salads are like a favorite.
Yeah, I have a... Yeah,
I
guess one of the grills it's a pellet smoker. So I have a pellet smoker and I have a gas grill, and then we have I use the fire pit as my charcoal grill just because why not? I don't need it.
Who's the better cook? You know what? Really that's depends. Split. Yeah, because I will almost always overcook meat, but I can season the crap out of things. You would love that. Yeah.
Spicy stuff. A lot of our food is pretty spicy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when I do get to sneak out and shoot a doe once in a while, I'll make some venison, but most of the time I'm pretty busy fishing.
Well, and the other thing, actually, I'm really looking forward to is we had gotten a new hub.
Grilled Caesar salad. No.
I've had that once, Eric, and I'm too nervous to attempt that myself. But we got a new hub for this coming winter. Last year we started the whole trend of the ice camping. And man, that was so much fun that we got a hub that's even bigger. The Monster Lodge.
Yeah, the Vortex Monster Lodge.
Yeah, so it is honestly like, I should post some pictures. We set it up the other day and I put Finn in the back side of it and I took a picture from the door and it's like, she's like this big in the picture. That is how big the hub is. I'm not even kidding you. I'll post this after. It's really funny. But what we're going to be able to then do is I'm hoping to do some cooking on the ice. So, whether that's like your little portable grill or whether that is, I don't know, on the stove,
Jay,
on the
there's
heater.
There's plenty of room for another person.
Yeah, there is a lot of room in this hub, to be honest. We got to get a little cot for Finn, but I'm really excited for the different on ice recipes that we're going to come up with, and easy, convenient things. Because as awesome as cooking is, and as much as we love that, I think that especially sometimes it's fun to just like throw something and heat it up and be ready to go and keep fishing.
Yeah, and eventually we're looking into doing the little camp stove action. Having the wood burning fireplace in there. So if you guys have any suggestions, we're looking at the Winterwell brand. We like the little window so we can see the fire.
Yeah
Romantic.
It's
that's true, Jay.
Catching fish, that is as romantic as I get.
That's true, Jay. Even if you're whether you're burning wood, or especially if you're burning a propane heat source or cooking inside for that matter, carbon monoxide detector is a great thing to have with, and probably I would dare say necessary. Yeah.
Well, and ultimately safety above everything. So, honestly, that's
we should just turn our Thursday show into a cooking show.
I know, this is awesome.
All these recipes.
Eric, I see your recipe, and I'm hoping that other people do too, because that looks delicious. I'm going to try it coming up. I will send you a picture. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Speaking of cooking, we can plug our show from last week, our Crappie Junction Night Bite. We had Steve Schaefer from Larry Smith Outdoors on. He gave us all kinds of recipes. You want to check that out? That was a cool show.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually quite a diversity of shows, because I think coming up this week, we have Relevant Sunglasses. I hope that's their actual name. I know Relevant is. But a really awesome group. We ran into them at one of the, I think Blaine Expo, and 2019 now.
Yeah, something like that.
Seems so long ago. But some really great products that you can use open water and ice, because man, sometimes that glare even on the ice gets crazy.
And they have some cool technology with their sunglasses for hunting and for different sport applications. So that should be a fun show tomorrow. Or Thursday, not tomorrow. Ooh.
Well, and it's going to be a fast week, because actually this weekend we are going to be fishing in Minnesota. So that is going to be fun. And our fishing report next week is going to be for a location other than normally our own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be really unique. And actually, we might even fish for something that is not crappies.
Should I go grab the tackle we're gonna use?
Sure.
I'll just grab one.
We're either going to be fishing for walleye or for bass.
Oh, who's gonna have them? Yes.
Well, now I ruined it. Or just pretend like I didn't tell you that. What area of Minnesota? We are going to be honestly on Mille Lacs Lake. So it's a big place. And honestly, I've never fished it. So I am super excited to be out there. I heard that the crappies can be really quite tough to find. So I'm going to see if we find that or not. But otherwise,
that's our only bass tackle for the weekend. That's what we're using.
Some beautiful net heads in this copper. Can it get closer? This is like a really great color. Like, is this
covering it all up?
Can you? Yeah, you can almost see it's like a hammered bronze color. So tell me if you think that's going to work. Go for smallies. Yeah, we're going to try. So I hope that that's what they're biting on.
Yeah.
I have these copper black root beer.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit sparkly and like a green color. So if you fish Mille Lacs and know any tips, hit us up. Oh my gosh. Awesome. Some people are already chiming in. Yes, good. We will let you know. I promise that. Cool. The other thing that we always talk about, I guess, at least by the end of the show, is favorite gear. And so a lot of times we give hints at that. But I was ready to put you on the spot before you asked me. So what is your favorite striker gear?
Most essential would be the bibs. You know, right now I've been using climate bibs since college. That's almost over 10 years now. That's the most essential. I think my favorite if I could leave something at home and it wouldn't be that big of a deal, would be the stealth gloves. I hate gloves, and I like those ones. I don't. Favorite is really hard because you some things are necessary. Like I have to wear shirts and pants to go outside. They can't be my favorite because I have to wear them. Well, I guess I don't have to, but I pay a lot of tickets. But I do like those stealth gloves. I've really, for the winter time, I've really come to love the low tide shirts. Those are some of my favorite.
That's what I'm wearing. A low tide shirt.
Pants are optional.
Fish naked. You guys, everybody. No.
But those low tide shirts, that's as close as you can get and still be illegal.
That is true.
Yeah, those low tide shirts, I really like those. I don't think I'll ever fish without a hood again. It took a little bit getting used to fishing with a hood all summer, but after I did, you notice how much light it blocks from the sides and how much it keeps sun off your ears. And,
it's a comfortable hood though.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's like kind of ridiculous. Look, I can get my hair even in here, but like, it's like not in your face, but like Josh was saying, see, like it blocks like around my glasses, but I have like, I could see it doesn't fall down. The wind doesn't push it too bad. But it does really keep the heat, or at least the sun, off.
Mm-hmm. How about you? What's your favorite one?
Jay is mentioning the striker sweatshirts, and that's actually a really good point that people don't talk about enough, is that if they never made another sweatshirt, I would be so sad. Like, because honestly, I wear those sweatshirts like every single day, and even as an ice fishing layer, because the thing about them is the outside is not like meant to be weather resistant. I don't think I should look it up, but it kind of is. If you're out in like a light mist, that's something that you will really feel protected from. But they look great and they are super soft and super comfortable. And I do have to agree with you because bibs are almost a given. And jackets are great. On those bitter cold days, there's nothing better
Yeah.
than being able to put on your jacket and knowing that you're going to stay warm. But quite frankly, the majority of days out there, I'm not wearing a jacket because I don't need to. Other than those things, I think my favorite gear is just my slouch hat. Is that like such a stupid thing to say? But I think to have a hat, first of all, I love the little palms because they're like great and they're really cute, but they're like really wintry. And so, I mean, I'm on the water every single weekend, and it's amazing how many of those weekends in fall, even in summer, sometimes you get a really chilly morning and you just don't want to be wearing like a palm hat, but you still need your ears warm, you still need like the back of your neck warm. And so that just really is a comfortable go-to, but it is, well, I would say it's warm, but it's one of those, like, I never get too warm in it. It's just a really comfortable hat. So shout out to that.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, the jacket and bibs, I've almost found it to be more of a luxury to have a ice house with us now that I have those. And that's not, that's not even, you can say that about a lot of the ice gear out there right now. A lot of companies are making some good stuff. I just happen to feel comfortable using and like using the striker stuff. And if I ran into a situation where I had to sell all of my fishing stuff, we would probably be rich, by the way. I could still go out and go fishing and be comfortable just in that suit.
Yeah, that's true.
If I kept one rod and I could keep that fishing suit, like, in the wintertime, fishing outside is the best. Like, there's nothing worse to me than being stuck in a shack and fishing the two same holes for hours. So if I can be outside and a lot of times, unless it's blizzarding and you can't keep your line from freezing or your hole from freezing, that's what I like to do. And being able to just put the jacket on when it does get cold, that's nice.
Yeah. And I see a boot.
Don't say that.
I see a boot debate forming. Honestly, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I do wear the striker boots.
Yep.
They are honestly comfortable. They fold down, so they're easy to put on. They're easy to take off. They're really, honestly, not bad to walk in. They have some really great mobility. They're comfortable for sitting in the boat or like covering the ice. But I start even looking forward to wearing them in this late fall onto the boat because they're comfortable.
Guys, here's the thing about boots, and I didn't learn this until a couple years ago. And somebody at a show, I can't remember even what show it was, kind of gave me the same challenge about boots. Use a pair of your everyday socks and go walk around in your boots. And you'll be amazed.
Not wool socks, not thick, not 2 layers.
Right. Because you'll be really amazed at how much warmer you'll be. And it really contradicts your thoughts on, layering up and this and that. But the thing is that especially boot manufacturers, you're going higher and higher and higher in insulation. But that doesn't necessarily mean your feet are going to be warmer. They're going to be too warm. And then you sweat, and then your feet are cold. And it doesn't matter if you're wearing, at that point, it doesn't matter if you're wearing sandals or if you're wearing 1,200 gram insulate boots, So, I went to wearing like one layer of like wicking socks and the striker boots, which is basically like a muck boot or bogs or whatever, that kind of boot. And my feet stay more warm and I've tried a lot of different brands, throughout high school and college and stuff, trying to keep my feet warm. And I never knew that I was overheating that whole time.
Well, and it's something really great. So here is how you know that you're one of those people is when you get out on the ice and you get out of your car and your cracks are busting. No way. If you get out of your car and you're fine, you walk to your spot and you're fine, and then you're, sitting on the ice and you're fine, and then an hour later or 2 hours later, it isn't until halfway into your trip that all of a sudden is when you're freezing cold. That might be because too much warmth has built up, and that even a tiny amount of moisture, I'm not talking we're sweating wet socks. No, even just the smallest amount of moisture gets in there. And that is one of those things that makes your feet chilly. So try out those lighter socks like Josh is mentioning. And if you are so nervous, because that's the kind of thing that makes me nervous, bring your other layers with you. Like put them in a bag, put them in your tackle box, in a side pocket, and put them in your striker bibs because there's a pocket for that. There's so many pockets, have them with you as the backup plan. But definitely go out and try that because that might definitely keep you a little bit warmer, but a little bit more comfortable on the ice this year.
Yeah. And that goes for the rest of your layering system too. Jump on that 20% discount and get some of that Cool Wave stuff. Cause that I wear this stuff underneath my ice fishing, it's like this, maybe a t-shirt and a sweatshirt is usually all that I wear. And we fish out, like I said, we fish outside 90% of the time.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Plus you got to love when your wardrobe kind of can travel with you both seasons.
Yeah.
That's
both
awesome.
Seasons. Yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty. So perfect timing here, actually, kind of. When does that ever happen? So it's normally this point in the show that I ask about like what is coming up next for, in this case, Crappie Junction.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about fishing coming up, and we, are looking forward to shows and expos if when they happen. So, that's something that I know that the show and expo pages will keep us updated on, and we will keep you guys updated on. And, as far as whatever is happening, we would love to bring it to you guys. So looking forward to whatever's going to be there.
Yeah. And for those of you that aren't familiar with our past, since it has been, this will be year 2 of not being able to go to shows. We go and we do live interviews under the Crappie Junction page. We do live interviews with the vendors, and they give us the little spiel, and we try and find like the most out of the way, small mom and pop companies that you're not going to find on the internet. They've spent all of their money to go to this one show to get their name out there, and we just love helping them do that. So, keep an eye out on our page, Crappie Junction, for that kind of stuff coming up, because hopefully, we at least have one show locked down this year for sure. So we'll be doing that, and it'll be fun to get back to doing that.
And Jonathan Hafner is asking any ice shows in Wisconsin this year. And hey, you know what? End of February, Wisconsin Fishing Expo. Yeah. I know it is not exactly what you were thinking, like you're looking for like a November, December show. February is the best of both worlds. There's still a little bit of ice because there's some ice season left, and there is a bunch of great spring stuff to come. Plus, a really great friendly show. Really nice people, lots of great stuff to look at. Yeah, we are going to be there for sure. Also really great like kids zone and stuff. So if you have a family or people to bring, it's really an interactive, awesome show to look into. So Wisconsin Fishing Expo, make sure to check that out. And as far as I know, that one is a go. And as far as the rest, we will let you know about that as well. Otherwise, we will be fishing around the area. So if there's something awesome that you know about, any kind of fishing going on that you think we should check out, definitely come and let us know.
John.
Yep. And otherwise, we're looking forward to hopefully an early season. Yeah. Ice season. Yeah.
So if you want to follow us, we're on, obviously, the Crappie Junction Facebook page. We have Instagram at Crappie Junction. And we also have YouTube's, and you can just YouTube Crappie Junction, or it's YouTube.com/C/Crappie Junction.
And otherwise, we are here every Tuesday interviewing some of our awesome striker staff, because there's a lot of amazing fishing out there to be had. And I can tell you all kinds of stuff about panfish, but there's other people that are even more of experts on, walleyes and bass and trout and all the different kinds of things that I can't even name them all. But if you guys have any interest, species of fish or people that you want to hear from, definitely drop that in the comments, because that is the kind of stuff that we would love to talk about coming up.
Absolutely.
Other than that, I always say thanks for being here with us tonight. It's been crazy. But I guess to the people at home, thank you guys for being here as well, because it is always a whole lot of fun to, sit and chat with you guys and chat fishing as well. So if you guys come up with any other questions, you can always feel free to still put that in the comments section. We'll be able to, or come and hit us up at Crappie Junction. Cool. Yeah. Other than that, I guess thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on next week's edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
Night, everybody.